Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. I really appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you and your family have had a good weekend and are focused for the week ahead. Don't forget to check us out on the radio, Hot 92 Birmingham Radio, tomorrow 10 till 12 on the UK Takeover Show with DJ Bigos, bringing the latest music news. This episode is about the protests that have took place in Bristol and also London as well, and to explain exactly what has gone on and why they're happening, and to just bring you the facts. Yesterday in Bristol, thousands turned out to protest against a bill that has actually been delayed in Parliament, and I'm not sure if this is due to the recent protests in London outside Scotland Yard, but they have delayed the vote on this bill. It's a police and crime bill, and it will basically stop people from having loud protests. So any type of protest that happens is loud, of course. And they cannot stop people from going about their day-to-day life. And of course, a lot of people have spoken out that include human rights groups and said that this is a breach of that, and people should be able to express and protest against injustices. I'm going to reference various articles and official police statements, but I'm also going to go on Twitter to see what you guys have got to say about this story as well, because now they've said that 20 police officers have been injured. It says that a protest against the police and crime bill on Sunday in Bristol turned violent after clashes with the police. One officer suffered a broken arm, and there has been further reports of one with a punctured lung. This happened outside Bridewell Police Station in the city centre, and it was held under siege by protesters for several hours. One police van was burnt out, and by the end of the evening there were several police cars that had been burnt out. ACAB was scrawled over the police vehicles. 5,000 people gathered in College Green at 2 p.m, and by 6 p.m, several thousand people gathered outside the police station. Riot police and protesters fought battles on two fronts against the police station and an attempt to push over a police van. Protesters smashed the window of a police station with a skateboard and managed to get onto the roof of the first floor. Missiles rained down on the police station and they lined up to defend the entrance. At one point, they even brought police dogs in to fend off people. Avon and Somerset police were called in for extra support, and pepper spray and police dogs were used as well as it descended into a riot. A press conference will be held by the police today, and they said the police were at the scene until 4:30 this morning. Details of the protest protests, they say, were circulated on social media, calling for people to gather on College Green at 2 p.m. The event was called Kill the Bill in reference to the attempts to stop the government's law that would give police and the Home Secretary increased powers to stop protests. The bill also has a new law that protects monuments and statues as well. This comes after the statue of Edward Colson, a former slave trader, was thrown into the water by the locals in last year's BLM protests. The protest was shared by Bristol's leading campaign groups like Extinction Rebellion and Black Lives Matter. In the run-up to the event, an Avon and Somerset police warned anyone thinking of taking part were breaching coronavirus rules. And of course, nobody took responsibility for the event organisation to avoid a £10,000 fine. Later on in the day, they say that an officer suffered a punctured lung after being stamped on, and 7 arrests were made as police were injured. The Mayor of Bristol also condemned the violence and said that it was unacceptable.
Very strong element of what happened in Bristol last night. Doesn't matter what the issue is, it's just an opportunity to live out their fancies.
The Chief Constable talked about the vehicles that were damaged. He said a police van was left unattended and it was torched. I don't know the circumstances of why an individual van was isolated or not, and I believe the original thinking was to use the police van as a barrier to stop people from getting close to the police station. If the van was left exposed, it could be the case they had to retreat because they was under attack. So it seems that not even the Chief of Police at that station is aware of exactly what happened last night. I think the details are still emerging as we speak as well. The officers were effectively trapped inside the police station, and they had to use shields and their helmets as protection. Many officers were thrown to the floor and assaulted, and the assaults on them were vicious, and they were wearing protective equipment, but bricks and broken glass were being thrown from the street. He then goes on to commend his officers and said they was very brave in the time, and everyone is very shaken by what they've been through. They said that anyone involved in criminality should expect a knock on the door, and they told the Bristol Live newspaper that attempts will be made to prosecute anyone involved in any offences that took place yesterday. They estimated 400 to 500 people were involved in criminality that they described as a significant group. The police station has got boarded up windows, burnt out bins, and it is covered in graffiti. Pictures showed the aftermath of the riot after the police station in the city centre was under siege for several hours. A 21-year-old from Cotham has described the scenes last night in Bristol as productive, and Bristol Live reporter Connor Gowerty interviewed the 21-year-old tutor from the city. A 57-year-old woman called Angela, who is a clerical officer from Hartcliffe, said that she thought the riots were absolutely disgusting in an interview also with Connor. And Sean Kingwell, a 49-year-old event management worker, said the violence is detrimental to the protest and what it stood for.
It did go a bit crazy. It was quite violent, but I think we need this kind of violence to prove a point, to make a noise, and to really shake up the problems that we're having with the bill and with violence surrounded by police, people who are meant to be caring for us and protecting us. Because personally, I don't feel safe around the police, and I know that many of my friends don't.
And do you think the way that it eventually unfolded last night was counterproductive?
In terms of for the police?
In terms of the message that the protesters or rioters were trying to get across?
I think it was productive. I don't think it was counterproductive at all. This was bound to happen personally, and I'm glad it did.
So of course, as I said, we spoke about this subject and this story last week when it was initially going through Parliament. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses and how it affects the actual bill. And I really want to hear what people have to say on the opinions of the protest. Do you think that it got out of hand? And do you think that this was constructive, or do you think it could have been handled differently? Trending this morning in relation to this story on Twitter, it says that 7 people have been arrested after demonstrating against the bill, resulted in 20 police being injured and 7 people arrested. And in other news as well, in London, as I said, there's been protests there as well, but these ones were based on anti-lockdown. Of course, everybody knows we've been on and off in lockdown in the UK for the past year. And yesterday, 30 people were arrested as the rally turned violent at Westminster. Our reporter went to the scene. People were going from different locations, and there was also celebrities like Lawrence Fox, who was actually on Park Lane near Hyde Park. The Telegraph newspaper said that 36 people were arrested as anti-lockdown protests in central London saw crowds hurling missiles at police and assaulting officers. Thousands of police joined Saturday's demonstration that travelled from Hyde Park to St Paul's Cathedral and back to Westminster, ahead of the anniversary of the UK's first lockdown on March the 23rd last year. It came after more than 60 MPs and peers signed a letter warning that allowing the police to criminalise people for protesting was not acceptable and is arguably not lawful. So this is anti-lockdown, but there is similarities to Bristol in relation to it is also against the bill. The Metropolitan Police walked with protesters along Parliament Square leading up to Whitehall. Among those protesting was Lawrence Fox and Piers Corbyn as well, the brother of Jeremy Corbyn. Crowds were gathered in Trafalgar Square and they were dispersed while other demonstrators went to Hyde Park. They said 100 people chased police vehicles away from Hyde Park as well, and missiles were thrown, and members of the public left the park with small children carried by their parents. The Deputy Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor, who led the policing operation, said the majority in attendance caused no trouble, while there were pockets of disorder throwing bottles and missiles at police, and they were assaulted. They said it was a challenging day for the force, and officers tried to explain to people that their actions were lawful under COVID-19 regulation. The approach did not work, and officers were met with hostility, and police enforced the regulations and made arrests. And this comes in response to the handling of the Clapham Common vigil for Sarah Everard. We covered that story as well on the channel last week. This is sort of like a boiling point for everything in the UK. There's a lot of different groups that have got a lot of different points that they want to make, and also a lot of people that are angry and upset for various different reasons. So not one of these protests are for one reason alone. There is a lot of different things that are contributing to it. So we need to seriously think what we're going to do to try to make a better environment for our kids to be growing up in. And I really want to hear what you guys have to say on this story, and please don't forget to contribute as well. We don't want to push any sort of narrative on the channel. We just want to bring you the facts of what has happened across the board, so your opinion matters, and I really want to hear from you guys. So let us know on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, or in the comment section as well, and please be respectful, and I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.
There's another group on Oxford Street we need to connect with.
Everybody stay together, stay strong!